George Floyd, how are African Americans treated under the law? 3 facts that help to explain anger in the U.S. Violence has erupted in cities across the U.S. over the death of African American George Floyd, after he was physically restrained by police in Minneapolis. 1. African Americans are more likely to get fatally shot. Here is the graph. The figures that are available for incidents in which the police shoot and kill people show that for African Americans, there's a much higher chance of being fatally shot relative to their overall numbers in the U.S. population. 2. African Americans are arrested at a higher rate for drug abuse. Here is the graph. African Americans are arrested for drug abuse at a much higher rate than white Americans, although surveys show drug use at similar levels. Drug abuse arrests by race Hispanics are not counted separately. Others is Asian, American Indian, Hawaiian or Pacific Islanders. Source: FBI and U.S. Census Bureau data for 2018. In 2018, around 750 out of every 100,000 African Americans were arrested for drug abuse, compared to around 350 out of every 100,000. White Americans. Previous national surveys on drug use show that white people use drugs at similar rates, but African Americans continue to get arrested at a higher rate. 3. More African Americans are imprisoned. Here is the graph. African Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans and at almost twice the rate of Hispanic Americans, according to the latest data. In 2018, African Americans made up around 13% of the U.S. population, but represented almost a third of the country's prison population. White Americans made up around 30% of the prison population despite representing more than 60% of the total U.S. population. Imprisonment rates have dropped for African Americans over the last decade, but they still make up more of the prison population than any other race. Differences are everywhere, but we should learn to live them and celebrate them, as where there is love, there are fights.